Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Edges and Sledges Cricket Podcast. This is DJ and I'm pleased to report we have a full house. We've got the Garg brothers in. They're back from their endless, seemingly, holiday to France. They're both back in Singapore and the United States respectively. We've had a packed week of cricket, guys. There's a lot of test cricket that's happened. We're going to touch a little bit about that, but this is the first episode in 2022 where all three of us are on. You guys recorded briefly last week, I think while you were still on the road, probably in the car or something, which was a bit crazy. So well done on getting in the Fortress Centurion episode. But you're all back home now. So firstly, Ashwin, Happy New Year. What's going on? How's it like being back in the United States?
Happy New Year! It's great. We had a few days of jet lag, but mostly back up to it. But I woke up this morning. I read a tweet that said, effectively, as of this moment, England is undefeated in Test cricket in 2022, and India is yet to win a match in 2022. And it's just great that the New Year resets clocks for England fans, right? England hasn't lost yet.
Absolutely, and there's been yet another draw at the Sydney Cricket Ground, starting with the January Test match that just took place there. But we'll come to all of that. Varun, how's Singapore? How's life there, man? Have you been jet lagged as well? Or have you managed to adjust a bit better?
Yeah, very jet lagged. I'm in 7 days home quarantine right now, so on day 5, so 2 more days to go. But yeah, there's been a lot of cricket on, so it's been really, really good fun.
Yeah, let's get into all of that. Of course, there was the Bangladesh-New Zealand Test match. There were the Ashes. There was the India-South Africa Test match. There was a declaration of the team for the women's team as well. So we'll get into all of that, guys. But first, Varun, I want to ask you, New Zealand, Bangladesh. New Zealand are the reigning World Test Championship winners. The reigning World Test champions, I should say, right? They go home after a pretty honorable performance in India, Ajaz Patel picking up 10 and all of that stuff. India won that. But they go home, which is like they haven't lost a test match there to a subcontinental nation for 11 or 12 years. And Bangladesh show up, who's without Shakib. They haven't got Tamim. What happened in this test match? I mean, is this the biggest upset in recent history?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I don't know which fortress we'd call this, but at the end of the day, I mean, I'll give you my story. My friends messaged me saying Bangladesh is doing really well. And I was like, yeah, sure, they're playing at home. They've won a few test matches at home. And then they were like, no, they're playing in New Zealand and beating New Zealand in New Zealand. And that's when I was like, wow, this is something. So big moment for them, man. Like, I mean, I know they've beat Australia at home. I remember watching that test match. But to go to New Zealand and do something that a lot of teams are unable to do, full credit to them, man. Like, I was really, really impressed. To restrict them to 328 in the first innings, but then put up 458, right? That was the killer. If you had just got somewhere around 350, this was a game on and New Zealand would have fancied their chances. You not only took them, got over lead over them, you then got them all out for 169. And Ibadat picked up 6 wickets, man. I mean, I didn't hear of this guy. We're going to talk about something that happened in the second test today as well, which was funny. But 6 wickets for Ibadat was just fantastic.
Yeah, Ashwin, who's this guy? Ibadot? I don't know how to exactly pronounce his name, but apparently he's done nothing. His bowling average was like 85 or in the 90s before he got these 6 wickets, and it's I think dropped since to about 55 or 60. But they've been backing him for a while. But what do we know about this cricketer and where does he come from?
Yeah, he's played 12, 13 test matches or so, not too many. I think what was interesting that I was reading about right before we started the episode is that, he was a big fan of Brett Lee, which, obviously aspires himself to do well in that part of the world as well, based on that. But yeah, used to play volleyball in the Bangladesh Air Force, then decided to move to cricket, and then has played cricket in the Bangladesh Premier League and stuff. So honestly, a little bit out of nowhere, but clearly a massive talent. I don't think he's done great with T20, but just a massive talent with the red ball. So unbelievable to see somebody new come in. And to your point, not just do, I mean, let's face this, right? A lot is happening with India cricket. We are an Indian cricket podcast. We have started this show talking about New Zealand, Bangladesh. That should show you just the magnitude of this accomplishment for Bangladesh.
I think that's my cue to plug the Bangla Cricket podcast, which is by Roshan Alam, who has been on this show before. It's a really great podcast. So go and check that out. The other
Did you
game.
guys read about what happened in the second test with Ibadat?
No, what's happened?
So he bowled a delivery. Firstly, he got a couple of drop catches off him. He then bowled a delivery which went towards the third man boundary. The New Zealand team ran 3. It came back. The ball came back to the keeper or somebody at the keeper's end. They threw it and it went to the boundary. So this poor guy had to chase after the ball himself, dive to try and stop it, and still end up conceding 7 runs off 1 ball.
That sounds horrible. That sounds like the worst case scenario for a bowler. I mean, the only thing that could have been worse is that if he saved the boundary, chucked it in, and then it went for a 4, which would have been what, 11, 12? We should ask Dharmasena. Dharmasena will tell us the answer to the overthrow rule.
One of the hypotheticals that Varun and I used to discuss when we were kids was, can you overthrow for 6? And is it theoretically possible that, you know, the guys try to throw it and get a run out, but completely flays it in the air? If at that point it goes straight over the rope, is it 6? I don't think so, because the ball has already touched the floor. But anyway, the joys of being 8 years old and discussing these things. So if any of our listeners knows the answer, I'm all ears.
I think you'd probably try that at a ground like Sharjah or something, but like most grounds won't allow you to throw.
I don't think it'll actually happen, but the hypothetical is an interesting one. But anyway, I digress.
Yeah, nice. But the other game that was on, right, was the Ashes. Guys, the Ashes have been a bit rubbish. Let's just be honest. Like, they've been completely rubbish. England have been completely outplayed so far. 3-0. Started off with rain. Again, Australia piled on the runs. Usman Khawaja scored a double hundred. Not a double hundred. He scored 200s in 2 innings on comeback. I mean, incredible story. Really pleased for him. Steve Smith got some runs. But again, England were left today in a scenario. They weren't going to win the test match. They were set too many runs to do that, I think. But they were left with Jack Leach and Stuart Broad batting to save the test. Varun, did you manage to catch the Ashes at all? And
Yeah.
talk me through that last hour or so, which was a bit surreal again.
Yeah, firstly, I watched pretty much all the Ashes because the timing worked great for me. I was waking up early, even though I was jet lagged, to watch it, right? So that's how much I was invested in it. First call out is to Usman Khawaja. Man, what a guy. Like, come back, hit 200s in 2 innings, and then come out and say, I'm probably not going to play the next test. Man, that's hard.
Is that like a knock on Justin Langer though? Because you saw in the test, right? Like, they had a bit of like.
Yeah.
Do you think these guys have a club? Do you think Khawaja, Karun Nair, these types have a club? Ajaz Patel, who took 10 for and then didn't get selected the next list.
Yeah,
that's good. Anyway.
I'm sure they do, man. Like, how do you drop? Like, let's see what happens in the next test. But special call out to him. And then, today's game was excellent. Okay, I woke up. I was ready for a repeat of Headingley. Ben Stokes started batting well as well. He got to 60. There were some 6s, some 4s. But the point at which he got out, I think the game kind of turned. And you could see it. The minute he edged that ball to Nathan Lyon, he essentially just kind of almost fell to the ground, right? Saying, I hope I haven't let this match slip as well. Bairstow put some resistance, but that last 1 hour was fantastic. Pat Cummins to come in and to come in. Wow, I didn't even realize I said that.
Nice.
That was 100% rehearsed.
Noise, Gargi.
I swear it was not.
Noise, Gargi.
For him to come in and take 2 wickets in the over. And DJ, did you see the Mark Wood delivery?
The in-swinger.
Yeah. Oh man, it almost broke his toe. It was like, wow.
It was great. I mean, but there have been some really crazy moments in this game. There was that one where Ben Stokes was bowled by Cameron Green. Well, he wasn't bowled, but the stumps didn't, like the bail didn't.
Yeah.
But it actually like deviated that much from the stumps.
Did you see his reaction? His reaction was my favorite. He was just laughing so hard. Because it's the luckiest thing that could ever happen to a batsman.
But the worst part was he was given out LBW. It's nowhere close to the pad.
But
the umpire's like, okay, I've heard sound.
Happened.
Yeah.
And then today, David Warner, there was a similar delivery which hit the pad, looked like it hit the stump. David Warner's like, that hit the stump too. And then of course Sachin tweeted to Warren saying, that
was a low point though, man. That was
yeah.
It was really
Wait, I don't think
quality.
I've seen this one. What happened?
He just said, should hitting the stumps be enough to be given out? Please take this up with the MCC or ICC. Anyway, I'm sure at some point we'll have a discussion as to why Sachin hasn't done more for cricket after he left, but today is not the day.
There's also the Johnny Besto 100.
Yeah, I was just coming to that. The 100 was there, but the last 10 minutes was amazing. They were moving towards a situation with bad light. Steve Smith gets handed the ball. The Australian commentators are all like, here's the guy who started his career with leg spin, and you're like, come on, this is ridiculous. And on the last ball of his second last over, he takes a wicket, and the SCG just erupted. Like, I got up from my bed as well, like when he took that wicket. It was awesome. And yeah, it just shows you Test cricket is great, right? Like, we've had 2 draws in 2 Sydney Test matches, 12 months apart. And what I did after that is I watched one Twitter feed that actually put 5 parts up with every ball of the Vihari and Ashwin partnership. So I sat and watched that after this test finished.
The thing with that last 10 minutes, Varun, the way you're describing it, is if somebody said the Ashes would have an exciting moment with Broad Anderson versus Steve Smith, you would have 100% expected Broad Anderson to be bowling and Smith to be batting.
Exactly.
That's crazy. So crazy.
Yeah, but the other thing about that was the Ben Stokes reactions, because the camera was cutting to him while he was sat there, and it shows you how much any test match means to these cricketers. The series is done. It's 3-0. They've been bruised, they've been battered, but they've fought. They've had all sorts of stuff thrown at them after they've lost the Ashes in less time than it took for them to quarantine. I think they lost in 12 days, whereas they had a 14-day quarantine, and all of that. But Ashwin, do you think there was
our Gabba episode was bruised but not battered? England have been bruised and battered.
Yeah. I like the little plug for the Gabba episode. I think you wrote those lines down when you started that one.
I actually did.
Yeah, it was great. But Ashwin, do you think there was a case for Marnus Labuschagne to come in for that last over?
I mean, I saw this happened like 3 hours ago when I was asleep, so I haven't yet watched the last hour. I've just been reading woke up repeatedly middle of the night. So I don't know why Smith came in over Labuschagne. Obviously, the fact that he got Jack Leach, and Jack Leach looked like he was putting up resistance yet again. He's done it before, so it's obviously seems like the right call. It's hard in hindsight. What I think it would be interesting to understand, that I don't have the numbers for, is how many overs did actually were lost because of the rain delay, and that's
7.
7? Okay. 7. So, I mean, 7 over, you don't expect Broad and Anderson to have survived 7 more, right? Even if, let's say, it was dark enough that they had to be all spin, you don't expect them to survive against Lyon and or Smith/Labuschagne. So, just unbelievable. This is what, all the cliches are flying around. Like, this is what makes Test cricket amazing. But think about the Centurion, the Bangladesh victory, and England. I mean, this feels like a win. England's going to be celebrating this like it's a win, but they've just prevented 5-0 and potentially set it up for 4-0 instead, right? So it's just magical.
And that's also very important in the World Test Championship context, right?
Yeah.
So it was really funny. I was watching the game. When Smith took the wicket, I was cheering for Australia. And then next I was like, come on, Jimmy, defend it, play it out. So that was like an insane, like, emotional roller coaster.
But why is it important for the WTC? Because I didn't get this either, but you've obviously done more into this. So why is it important
the
World Test Championship?
I think it's just percentage of points won, right? So obviously you get less points. So
because Australia had a perfect record until then, right?
Yeah,
they'd won 3 out of 3.
And if you get 5-0, I don't think there's extra points for home and away, etc. Right? So who knows what happened in the next 2 years because of COVID, etc. Suddenly you've got Australia with 100% win percentage. Everyone else is about 30, 40, 50. They're automatically through to the final. So that's why I said that Jimmy's 1 over that he defended actually kept everyone in that World Test Championship.
It's also a pretty low bar to be celebrating a draw, but I mean, I guess at this point, England fans will take anything that they can get. Celebrating a draw after 3-0 is a bit like India was celebrating it while it was 1-1 last year at Sydney. Let's be clear of the context. Like I said, well, the series is alive, fine, you can celebrate a draw, but like after 3-0, you're like pumping your fist like you've done God knows what. Anyway, maybe I'm just biased because I really don't like the English team for whatever reason. But anyway, the Ashes are great because either of these teams usually loses. Even when there's a draw, we've got something to criticize. But from what we've talked about so far is New Zealand, Bangladesh. We've talked about the Ashes. Guys, I think we have to take a short break before we actually get into the India-South Africa series because this is going to be intense. It's going to be emotional. So while we're on this break, why don't you go to Spotify or Apple Podcasts and give us a rating because we've now got quite a lot of 5-star ratings, but we always want more. So guys, we're going to take a break. And on the other side of the break, we will be talking about India's fortress this time being breached by a home nation. It's a bit odd, but we'll see you after this break.
Hey everybody, it's been another great week on the IVM Podcast Network. Episode 100! We've hit the 100th episode on Storytellers and Storytellers with Vineet Kanabar. Join us to take a look back at some of the best episodes so far. On Siders Says, Anushka Iyer, founder of Wiggles, tells Siders all about her pet care company. They chat about their mutual love for pets and how to best care from them. On The Habit Coach, Ashton learns 3 habits to better your handwriting from graphologist Imran Beg. On Fin Talks at Bob World, Akhil Handa talks to Gurjot Pal Singh. He's the CEO of Tide In. They discuss its digital banking services. In a new series called Ek Sawal Kai Jawab, the Pulyabazi hosts analyze why the number of government companies is increasing rapidly. Do follow us on social media. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And remember, if you're enjoying this show or any of our other shows for that matter, please do tell a friend. Also, don't forget to rate us on any of the platforms you're listening to us on. And you can also check us out on YouTube. You can have a list of all of our shows at ivmpodcast.com/YouTube. And finally, we'd like to thank our sponsors this week, Bank of Baroda and CoinSwitch Kuber.
Welcome back from that break, and you're still listening to the Edges and Sledges Cricket Podcast. We've got the other test matches this week out of the way, but this is obviously an Indian cricket podcast, and this is sort of why you guys are listening to this podcast. We've avoided it for as long as we could. But guys, we now need to address the elephant in the room. Johannesburg is no longer a fortress. We played 5 test matches there, won 2 test matches, drawn the remainder. India have now lost their first ever test match at Johannesburg. It was an exciting test match. I mean, it was a very, very interesting test match. It went to the sort of last hour of day 4. There's a lot of stuff to talk about the pitch. There's a lot of stuff to talk about team selection. There's a lot of stuff to talk about people who didn't play this game. So let's get straight into it. Ashwin, first up, I want to ask you, what did you make of the pitch overall? Was this a pitch... Because the last time we played at Johannesburg, the pitch was almost dangerous. When India played with 4 quicks, took all 20 wickets with quicks, there was talk about the pitch being dangerous. Did you think that this was an improvement on that last pitch from 2018, 2019?
I mean, I don't think improvement on the last pitch is the right benchmark because they were docked. The stadium was docked points. I think if they got docked points again, then they would be barred from holding any test cricket for a period of a couple of years. And so that's how bad the pitch was the last time we played there. So obviously we got a result. On day 4. So definitely an improvement. And arguably the fact that South Africa didn't lose more than 3 wickets in that last innings suggests that the pitch was playable. Now, it's a separate discussion where I think we didn't perform well enough, but yeah, I mean, the pitch was okay, right? You want teams to be able to get more than 200 odd in the first innings, but match was competitive. I think you said it was an exciting match. It was close. There were highs and lows, and it ended up in, of course, the result we didn't want. But yeah, my bias is to not blame the pitch. I think if this was a pitch, if this was Ahmedabad, the media would be having different conversations blaming the pitch. And that's just the double standard that exists in the media around Indian grounds, which we've talked a lot about. But from my perspective, the pitch was fine, passable.
Varun, you were happy with the pitch? There was a bit of uneven bounce. The ball was hitting the surface and disturbing it. Is that okay from your perspective? Or is there a case for, the whole idea that even Centurion had a lot of uneven bounce and like stuff. This also had uneven bounce. Some were shooting through, some were going quite high. The ball was taking off from a length. Was that okay from your perspective? I guess it made for exciting cricket, but was it a fair pitch, let's say?
Yeah, I mean, again, like Ashwin said, the pitch could have been better, but both sides play on the same pitch. So it's not like one team got more uneven bounce or unplayable deliveries than the other. To me, it was fine.
I think a fair assessment. I don't think we can complain about the pitch. I think KL Rahul as well, who captained this game, also came out and said the lack of first innings runs is what hurt them, while the pitch was a bit slower than it was later on in the game. It got quicker as the game went on. But the reason, guys, Rahul was captain was because neither Rohit was in the team And on the morning of the test match, we found out Virat Kohli had a back spasm and was not going to be in the side. Varun, I know you had some pretty strong feelings about this. I'm going to come to you first, and then Ashwin, I want to get your take on this as well. How badly, Varun, did India miss Virat Kohli, the batter, and Virat Kohli, the captain?
Look, let me just say this. There's a lot of hate going on for this guy. We love him. I hate to say this, but if we lost without him and we can win the next test with him, I'm okay with it, man. I'm good. Like, yeah, sometimes you need to show your value in different ways. Of course, this is my view. This is not what Virat Kohli has done, but it's okay if he comes back and wins the next test. I really hope people shut up a little bit about it.
अश्विन, हार के जीतने वाले को ही बाजीगर कहते हैं या विराट कोहली कहते हैं?
I thought the line was Bazi Garg kehte hain for me and Varun. But no, I mean, obviously Varun's point of view is an extreme one. None of us ever wants India to lose, and we should make sure that's clear. But I think we've talked about a lot on the show is when you're absent from a side, either as batter or as captain, is when your real value starts to be appreciated, right? Full credit to KL Rahul. I would say as recently as probably 5 weeks ago, he was fourth maybe in the pecking order, right? Kohli, Rohit, Rahane, and then Rahul. And then he walks out and gets to captain his side. A great honor, well deserved. He's had an amazing last, let's call it, year and a half or so, and he's absolutely deserved it. But being a test cricket captain is not easy. The decisions on who to throw the ball to, the decisions on field positioning, guidance to your bowlers, even just the morale side of it, right? People underestimate. There's a whole separate thing that happened this week with Moeen Ali talking about Joe Root's captaincy versus Alistair Cook's, but people underestimate the importance of when Virat walks up to a bowler, puts his hand around his shoulder, and says some words of motivation. He's probably reminding Bumrah of his abilities. He's probably telling Shami, firing Shami up. You just see that energy and that the passion and the drive that comes. And so no discredit to Rahul. It was his first time playing as a test captain, but test cricket captaincy is not easy, right? And we've seen that with people like Tim Payne over the last year. We've seen multiple people come and go for their nations. The best players in the world have not been the best captains. Virat Kohli is clearly, and the data doesn't lie, he's clearly a phenomenal test captain, and Team India missed him. Period. There is no question in my mind that this match could have gone a different direction. Again, I'm going on for very long. Full credit to South Africa for winning and playing well, but I strongly believe India's fight back would have been a much harder with Kohli there to help guide the team.
I have no doubt that if he was there, he would have come out in the middle of drinks, told Pujara and Rahane, "Sham tak khilenge, to inki beep 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 ho jayegi." Right, so that's where he said it last time as well in South Africa.
I think the Murli Vijay, right, when he was in the batting at Centurion. But let's talk through the various innings that went on. Like India batted first, won the toss again, which was nice. No, I don't think I've got any quarrel with the decision to bat first. I think it was a fair decision to bat first again, but I don't think we got enough runs in that first innings. Rahul got a 50, but no one. Ashwin got 46, but no one else really contributed, right? Vihari who came in instead of Kohli, effectively. Rahane moved up one slot. Rahane got a first ball duck, Varun, and I know you had some pretty choice words at that point. But we'll talk about Rahane as well. But 202 in the first innings, not enough. That's what KL Rahul identified the issue as being, as why they lost the game. But is that again a fair assessment, or did we lose the game elsewhere, possibly with Siraj getting injured because we were one bowler down? Pardon?
Yeah, I think the Siraj thing, we'll talk about it later, but there were just not enough runs, and that's been part of the problem in South Africa over the last 20 years for us. So to bat first and then not put enough on the board is just, you were on the back foot already. Now, India's bowling has won them a lot of test matches in the last 2 years. So we were all hopeful. But even in the first test, I remember showing Ashwin, I can't remember how much we made. Let's say we made 328, let's say. And the first innings average at Centurion was 329. So even there we were under par versus the first innings score. So I don't know the first innings average score at Johannesburg, but 200, not enough.
Ashwin, how much pressure did Rahane and Pujara have after that first innings? Let's say debacle again, where Rahane gets his first ever first ball duck and Pujara gets 3 of 33 balls. I mean, that middle order has been misfiring for a long time now. It feels like we haven't had a middle order for a long time. So, how much pressure was piled on these guys?
Didn't you call them middling order? I thought that was
Yeah,
pretty good. I
yeah.
should give you credit for that one. But yeah, huge amount of pressure. But that's what distinguishes goods from greats, right? And players, there are hundreds of thousands of players who are close to being Test cricketers, not just Test cricketers, but cricketers who are mainstays in their team side, and very few actually become that. And it was very disappointing. Of course it happens, but Pujara and Rahane, yeah, they redeemed themselves a little in the second innings, which means they're going to get a long leash and we're going to keep extending it. But you just cannot walk in at 36 for 1 as a Pujara and just not be able to put up the runs, and then walk in at 49 for 2 and one ball later be 49 for 3, right? With Rahane, it's just not good enough. Your number 3 and 4 are supposed to be your best. I mean, who has been, think of the 3s and 4s over the course of history, right? From Dravid and Sachin to Lara and Ponting, and these guys have all been their middle orders or whatever. 3 could be a top order, but it's just not good enough. And so very disappointing. I mean, 202 is despite Ashwin making almost a half century late. We could have been bundled out for 150 if not for some heroics right at the end. And, Pujara and Rahane have to take the fall for that in the first innings.
Fair enough. And we'll talk about the second innings, particularly Rishabh Pant. I think we need to talk about him, but we'll get to that. Anyway, we get bowled out for 202. Then again, our bowlers, and we've talked about our bowlers, right? We almost expect them to produce wickets. And Ashwin, I think you were saying in one of the previous episodes that you used to enjoy watching India bat, whereas now you enjoy watching India bowl, which is a testament to this bowling attack. And we were almost at a full-strength bowling attack. We had Bumrah, you had Shami, you had Shardul, you had Ashwin, and then Siraj goes down, right? Shardul has to do a lot more of the bowling. Ashwin doesn't really step up. Now, let's talk a little bit about Ravi Chandran Ashwin's role in this bowling attack. Why is he unable to take wickets abroad? Ashwin, he's a master at home, right? He's an absolute master at home, but he isn't making those contributions when we're playing abroad. In England, we were all for we need to play Ashwin, but maybe he isn't cut out for these pitches. He hasn't really contributed as much in these 2 test matches. Is that right?
I mean, when's the last time any spinner did great in South Africa? I mean, the last few series I can think of in South Africa have been 4 quicks, sometimes 5 quicks, or 4 quicks and a medium pace all-rounder, right? So Maharaj bowled 1 over in the first innings.
1 over in the test, yeah.
I
think Harbhajan took some wickets a few years ago, but
yeah,
no one else.
But I mean, by and large, spinners don't do great in South Africa. And I think what Varun and I were talking about when we were together is just how much you miss a Jadeja, because the reason Ashwin plays, the reason Shardul plays, and of course he played phenomenally, but is that 7 and 8 is so confused and so lost, where you don't have bowlers that can, the 5 bowler strategy, basically, which we can spend a whole episode talking about. So Ashwin contributed with the bat, got 46 runs. He did end up taking, he took a couple of wickets in that second innings, 1 wicket, right? And he did okay in the previous test. So yeah, not good enough, obviously, to play as a full-time bowler, but gives you options, right? Like having 1 spinner in the side. Now, again, we've said this many times before, if one of our batsmen could pull a Smith or Labuschagne and give you 5 overs of spin, just 4 or 5 overs to give the quicks a break, then you maybe don't need a full-time spinner in South Africa, maybe not necessarily in New Zealand, but everywhere else, I think Ashwin walks into the side in the absence of Jadeja.
But guess who can give you those 5 or 6 overs? There's a man in this lineup who can do those 5 or 6 overs.
You're going to plug Hanuma's bowling abilities again?
But he can. You're literally talking 5 or 6 overs, right? Yeah. And if Ashwin hasn't picked up a wicket in the first innings, it allows you to play 6 batters, or it allows you to play 5 quicks. Like, you could have played Umesh. You've got Saini, you've got Umesh waiting in the wings. Mm-hmm. Should we now, and we'll talk about the third test match. Ishant, yeah, I've totally blanked. That's the wealth of fast bowling resource we have. So I know we were all calling Ashwin must play here, Ashwin must play in England, Ashwin must play but are we basically not allowing, and this will be a question for the next test match. Does Vihari stay? He's batted pretty admirably. He got 20 in the first innings, got a lifter, got out, 14 out in the second innings. How do you drop him? Is he part of the Usman and Karun Nair club, that he's batted beautifully and then gets dropped in the next test match? All questions to be answered. But with Siraj going down, one of our favorite players on this show had to do a lot more bowling, right? And I've said, I've come and said on the show before, it's better to be lucky than be good. Varun, first I want to talk to you about Shardul Thakur, or Lord Thakur. What is with this? How does he do it? What is the magic that this man has that allows him to pick wickets, score runs, pretty much do anything on a cricket field?
I don't know, man. Like Ashwin and I discussed it. Everyone keeps saying he bowls with a lot of heart, but everyone bowls with a lot of heart. So what is it about this guy? I don't know. I have to say, I think this is the first overseas test that Thakur has lost. Right? I think that is the right stat. So I wonder what it's like to
first test match at all, I think.
First test at all. So I wonder what
Never
he
lost a
must have
test
thought. He's had like 7, I don't know if there's a short form for that, a 7 for, and he's come out on the losing side. But I remember telling a few people that, you know, when South Africa were batting and they were 88 for 2, I said, man, this game looks gone even before day 2 is over. And in comes Shardul Thakur, man, picked up 7 wickets. Unbelievable. Got the ball to do all sorts of things. I think his outswinger is great. Pant caught a lot of his, was the guy who caught a lot of his wickets. And generally just really good bowling, man.
Ashwin, I can't really see you. Are you hiding under the table there? We'll have your public apology now.
I have already done the public apology. Remember, my friend, after the Australia series, I said something to the effect of "Man guy, bhai." Like, it just full credit to this guy. I gave him full credit. Unbelievable spell, unbelievable, and yeah, just to pick up 7 wickets in a bowling lineup with Bumrah and Shami and Ashwin and a few overs of Siraj. Just magnificent. I think he picked up 5 in a row at one point, right? Like 5 of the consecutive wickets that fell were all Shardul wickets. And I don't know how to articulate it, Varun, when you think about bowlers who bowl with a lot of heart. But it's just that kind of never say die, never give up type of attitude. You've seen that with the bat sometimes from him, mostly with the ball, but just runs in hard. You know, you rarely see Shardul's shoulders dropping. You rarely see him, you know, trying too many funky different things with the red ball. He tries to hit his spots, and when it works, it works. So again, full credit to him. I was very, very vocally one of the naysayers. I didn't think he has what it takes to perform at this level. And boy, has he proved me wrong time and time again. I'm so excited for Team India for him.
And you can see the intensity right all the way to the end when Bavuma pulled away in the 4th innings when there were like 5 or 7 runs to get. You could hear on the stump mics, which have been turned on really loud for this series. And we'll come to the Siraj chat. I don't know whether you guys caught that little message he gave the viewers at home. Okay, let's do it now. Obviously, South Africa went on and won that game, right? Like, I don't know whether it gone into break in India or whatever, but there's a little passage where Siraj is having an absolute go at Dean Elgar. Dean Elgar's giving it back to him. There are only 10 or 15 runs to go at this point. South Africa have pretty much won this test match. And Siraj walks up to the stump mic between overs and says, Abhi uchalna hai, jitna uchalna hai, uchal lo. Ek test match baki hai.
Wow.
I mean,
in his classic Hyderabadi Hindi, it was so solid. And he goes, stump mic ke paas aake bol raha hu. He says that.
Man, yeah, it's fine to go and do that, but I have to say I was not impressed with the way Siraj fired the ball back at the batsman twice or thrice this test match. Like, if I can be honest, that really pissed me off because all of us are like, he's such a great guy, he's so good. And then he comes and fires the ball at the batsman not once, but like twice. That was ridiculous. But yeah, sure. I mean, uchalna hai, uchal. You're not going to be playing the next test, so hopefully you can carry drinks well, I guess, from the next test.
I also remember when Siraj did this to the English fans when we'd just been bowled out for 78 at Headingley. He clearly has no idea of context or match position or anything. He's like a nicer version of Srishant. You know what I mean? I was watching Srishant bowling to Hayden recently. And Srishant was exactly picking up the ball, chucking it. Yeah, exactly that in the World T20. But Siraj is like a more lovable version of Srishant. Srishant was unlovable. Completely.
Yeah. And Siraj has been taken under the wing by Virat Kohli, right? So you never know, just walking up to stump Mike, saying all these things. So, yeah.
Absolutely.
But
Anyway, so
yeah.
and
He
you
should
had
be ahead
this
of himself.
in the first South African innings. You had like Marco Jansen getting bounced by Bumrah, which becomes relevant later as well. And apparently he got up and in Afrikaans goes "come again," which is what one of the commentators translated on air, which was great because like it gave less time for Sunny G to give his. There's one. Can they make this the last over of the day? It will be a great achievement. That bit on loop, man, it really gets me. There should be a rule against Sunny G being on commentary for the last over.
Or in general, idea.
Last half an hour. It's just, oh my God, that can they somehow make this the last over of the day? Every single day.
So what did you guys think
This
of the
obsession with
Bumrah?
time wasting is too much.
What did you think of the Bumrah incident?
Ash?
Which Bumrah incident?
The Marco
Bumrah
Jansen.
Jansen.
Okay, anyway, DJ, what do you think?
I don't even know which one you're
Basically,
talking about.
Oh, great memory. Superb. It's happened less than half
I
a
was
week
flying
ago.
home when this the last day was happening.
Jansen
maybe-
basically got bounced by Bumrah, and then when Bumrah
No,
was getting
it
bounced
was-
by Jansen,
yeah.
then Bumrah was like, he like brushes his
Yeah.
shoulder
I
off,
haven't seen
and
that.
like,
Oh, I missed that.
and then he
Oh.
swings again. It was, yeah, I don't
But
know
that
what
was
happened to
also-
Bumrah.
That was also bullshit, man. That's what I'm saying. Why are these guys getting ahead of themselves? Bumrah took a lot of blows on the body, and he tried to show it as if it didn't even affect me. And then I don't know why Jansen bowled another bouncer, and Bumrah called him close to him, and it was ridiculous. Why did he do that? Also, Jansen was a net bowler for Mumbai Indians. Don't you know him from then? Like, why? What are you doing now? Do you want to be the center of controversy every time you go overseas and there's a bouncer being bowled by at you, or do you or you are
Bumrah
bowling
was
one?
probably calling Jansen and saying, "भाई, तेरा contract मैं खत्म कर दूंगा."
अरे यार,
Mumbai Indians का.
वैसे ही खत्म हो गया है. There's nothing to
He's
do. I
like,
just,
Bumrah was like, "Khatam." That's
I
what he
mean,
was doing.
You're losing the test match and you're firing the ball back at the
But at
batsman.
that
You're
stage, we were
calling
not
the-
losing the test match when Bumrah did that, right? We were on top in the test match.
I
If you
know,
think
so
about it,
down.
okay.
But
I want to
anyway,
ask.
it's a shit thing to do either way.
Yeah.
It's a shit thing to do.
Yeah, I guess when you don't have Virat Kohli to channel that aggression, I guess you need to find some other way of getting rid of that aggression. But what I want to ask you is this third innings, right? India, we're trailing by 27 runs, and we come out pretty much all guns blazing, right? At that point, it looked great. There were some great shots. It was all very attacking and dramatic and fun. But to me, it seemed that basically India had said this pitch is not good enough to bat on. So we are going to swing. We are going to try and score as many runs as we can. We are not going to stay in. We are just going to try and score runs, and our bowlers will take care of the rest. That is what it seemed to me that their strategy was. There is no reason for Rahane and Pujara to be striking at those strike rates after their first innings and general performance over the last few years. It sounded to me like in the dressing room, Rahul Dravid or Rahul and Kohli, whatever, said, "Bhai, dekho, there's going to be a ball that comes, it's going to get you out. So just smash everything. If it's pitched up, go for it." Ashwin, did you get that feeling as well when you watched that innings?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to know the why. It's hard to know whether or not it was because of the pitch specifically. But yeah, 100%, right? They came out all guns blazing. They looked like they had a target in mind, which I think would have been probably over 200, let's call it, right? Which means India needed to make 227 to offset the 27-run deficit and get 200 or so. And they were just going for it. And so it absolutely felt like they said the way to dominate on this pitch is to get under the bowler's skin, to make runs quickly, to get the ball going with the boundary. I mean, Pujara hit 10 fours, Rahane hit 8. I've never seen them bat like that. And so 100% agree. And honestly, for the most part, I'd say it worked, right? India making 266. We were thrilled. Again, the first two innings scores were 202 and 229. So India making 266 in the third innings, we were pretty happy with it. Yes, you will always want 20 or 30 more runs, but setting a South Africa target of over 240, thanks in large part to the middle order who I've critiqued with Pujara, Rahane, and of course Vihari, and then some late fireworks from Thakur, who just seemed to do no wrong in that day and a half. I mean, he was smashing the ball everywhere. But yeah, I mean, I would have taken 240 odd run lead in the third innings.
Varun, were you happy with Rahane and Pujara? I mean,
Yeah,
they struck at 74 and 61. Rahane scored at 74 and Pujara scored at 61 respectively. Was that what a functioning middle order looks like? And it was the fastest 100 partnership in recorded history in South Africa.
Yes, they played well. Does it undo what they've done for the last 2 years? No. Should one of them have gone on to get 100 or an 80, 85, 90? Yes. So kudos to them. They did well, but it doesn't change anything in my opinion. Everyone who was watching this match, like, I urge you to go and check the scorecard of the 2018 tour. There was one man who made the difference in that series, who won them the series, and that was AB de Villiers. Okay. AB de Villiers came out and scored at almost a run a ball every time, probably made 50, 60 every time. One guy changed the game. Now, you look at that, you say everyone should play like that. That's not the right approach. If Pujara was playing like that, somebody else has to anchor around him. If Rahane was playing like that, somebody else has to anchor around him. Yes, get runs fast. Get runs by playing some risky shots, but one person do it at a time. You don't need everyone to do it. So I think I was one of the few people who thought that this, whatever, however much the lead was, 240 odd, was not enough. Okay. I had people messaging me saying anything above 180, this is our game. And I don't blame them. That's what the bowling has done. However, it was not enough. It was never going to be enough. Even when you look at other teams, right? You want to get to 300, you want to get to 320, psychological advantage. There was no dearth of time. I think this match finished on day 4. You should have taken your time. And DJ, I'm going to cue you up for the Rishabh Pant part now because it was not on.
Nothing really to queue up, is there? It was a short innings of 3 balls. He gets hit on the shoulder on the second ball of Rabada, who we must say, when South Africa looked really flat. There was one catch that went in between, I think, Elgar and Markram. It dropped between the two, and Rabada was fired up after that. South Africa bowled also a lot better in this test match, actually. Go on.
Also, the controversy that happened with Pant, right? So that Vander Dussen, he got out to a controversial catch. Yeah. He was really upset, just walked off. Later in the lunch break, I think they looked at reviews and said, can you turn this around? Obviously, nobody's going to listen. Then when Pant comes out to bat, this guy is just in his ear. Okay, luckily Pant was there only 3 balls, but I saw that footage and this guy just did not let Pant breathe for a second. Did it work? Yeah, it worked. But I mean, Pant has to learn to deal with this better. Pant is not the guy who gave it out. He took the catch on the best of his knowledge and he has to move on with that. But the amount he got sledged, oh my God, like good, he will learn.
Actually, let's go back to that incident. Vander Dussen edges it. It goes to Pant. Pant catches it to the best of his knowledge, as you say. They don't review it. They walk off. They go off for lunch or tea or whatever the break is. Then I believe that the match referee and everybody gets together. The South African coach goes there. They get together, and it's still inconclusive and it was given out on the field. So there's no reason to overturn it. So they didn't even ask Rahul if he wanted to overturn it. So there's no comparison to the MS Dhoni incident of 2011 at Trent Bridge, which there's a horrendous article on Crick Buzz, which is factually incorrect as well. So there's no comparison to that. There's no spirit of cricket debate there. It was given out on the field. It stayed out. It was inconclusive even after they watched it through the lunch break or tea break or whatever it was. Then Rahul gets out to another catch which is checked. Remember that's what the first thing that happens in the third innings. Rahul gets an absolute mouthful from the South Africans. And the South Africans are not innocent. I remember Rahul Dravid once said that you think that the worst sledgers in international cricket are not the Australians. They're the South Africans. Because he's had an incident with Alan Donald back in 96-97 and Dravid refused to speak to Alan Donald after the match. And Alan Donald has come out and said that is the incident he regrets the most in his career about sledging somebody. So the South Africans are not innocent and they were desperate for a win. They are playing at home. There's no Quinton de Kock in their team anymore, so they're pretty desperate, right? Pant gets an absolute earful, but Pant, as you say, he's now played enough test cricket to know that this is how it goes. He dishes it out. Temporary captain, come on Ash, Spider-Man.
He told Van der Dussen that if you're short on knowledge or you have only half knowledge or something like that, he gave it back to him as well.
Yeah, and
But
you've got to, if you dish it out, you've got to be able to take it. Same as Bumrah and Janssen, which will continue in the next match. Same as Elgar. I mean, Elgar is probably given enough to these players while he's been batting, because he's been batting for a long time. But the Rishabh Pant shot, Ashwin, there's an argument that this is how he plays. So we should not be angry if it doesn't come off. But in that situation where you've got Vihari, who's gutsed it out, 40, what makes that shot look even worse in hindsight is the Elgar innings. Right? Should Rishabh Pant by now have that maturity to recognize, yes, this is a tough pitch, this is not going to work, I need to dig in and score these runs for my team? Because let's be blunt and honest, Riddhiman Saha would not have played that shot. He would have been there taking every blow on his body. Their keeping, Pant has kept well, so you can't fault him for that. But he's in the team because he differentiates himself from Saha in terms of batting and the X factor. So talk me through, as always, on the Rishabh Pant show, the Rishabh Pant shot.
Yeah, I mean, it was unbelievably painful to watch, right? I think we know that. You see him dance down the track, swing super hard at a wide one, which he had no business, off of one of the best quick bowlers in the world right now. It's just silly. So yeah, I mean, again, there's going to be people who say this is how he plays. He's delivered us with, lots of successful results thanks to it. And that's great. But even Rahul Dravid has said, yes, this is how he plays. We want him to be aggressive, but shot selection matters. And context of the game situation is super important. This was his second or third ball. He could have easily waited a couple more deliveries, right? Like, it's not that hard. He could have at least just showed a little bit more patience for a few more deliveries and then decided how to swing. And again, it's easy for us as armchair critics to sit here and say that stuff. But yeah, it's just unbelievable. Like, the bad shot selection, poorly done. And so, yeah, I mean, painful, and he'll bounce back in the next innings. He's young, but he needs to learn. And the fact that Dravid made a public statement that we will be talking to Pant about this is great and is very important.
Okay, the last question on Rishabh Pant, Varun, I'm going to ask you, but how much has bubble life affected Indian cricketers? I know we've talked about it before on the show, the challenges of bubble life. Virat Kohli hasn't scored any runs since being in a COVID bubble. Rishabh Pant has been in a COVID bubble for a lot of time. How much does it affect these guys? I mean, day in and day out, all you're talking about is cricket, watching cricket, being with your cricket friends, cricket team, cricket family. For a player like Rishabh Pant, does he need that freedom to be able to just switch off? I don't know.
Yeah,
Do you think there's an element of that that's affected his batting?
I think there is. If you've read up anything about Rishabh Pant's past, you know that he craves family, because he grew up in a different situation, right? Where he was away from his family to train for cricket. So all he wants is his family now. It's not easy, man, this bubble life. I think it's just it's something you have to live with. It's something you learn. I think you thrive on this cricket, and it's just, yeah, it's a tough one, but you have to learn to adapt to whatever situation you're in. It's been 2 years now since this bubble has happened. It's not easy. Ask for a rotation, right? I mean, you'll have to stand up and ask as players. About Kohli not scoring runs, I mean, yeah, the bubble is no excuse, because Mitchell Stark's average is apparently higher than Kohli's average, right? In the last 2 years.
But now Anushka is going to be playing Jhulan in a Netflix documentary, so at least Kohli's got something to practice against at home.
Yeah, exactly. Sunny G won't be happy about that.
Yeah, but Anushka is going to be running into bowl, Jhulan Goswami's action, Kohli is going to be doing net practice at home. It's going to be good. Don't worry.
Some people are pretty upset at her Bengali accent that she's trying to put on, but I haven't heard it yet, so I'm not judging.
At least all we want is for Kohli to get back into good form. But anyway, we set 240 runs, right? As Ashwin said, Lord Shardul came out, smashed 24 runs, or 28 runs in 24 balls. We set 240. Varun, how have we not managed to defend these runs? Are we just spoiled by this Indian bowling attack now? We're just used to seeing them knock teams over for fun.
Yes, simple one-word answer. Yes, we're just too spoiled. I mean, the fact that we think we can win with 150, 180, it doesn't happen every time. And it's good. It's a good reality check. Siraj didn't bowl, only bowled 6 overs. Shardul couldn't have picked up 7 again. But yeah, it's a tough it's a tough situation to be in. And again, let's give credit to Dean Elgar, man. That guy took some body blows. He did a lot of work out there. He spent a lot of time and got his team over the line. So they played better. And I think it's a good reality check for us because we were thinking we're going to win the series now. After this test, third one, we'll probably, end up playing some of our net bowlers and seeing how it goes. But it doesn't work like that, man. It's all up for grabs now at Cape Town.
Ashwin, have we blown a golden chance to breach or to conquer that final frontier? India have never won a series in South Africa, test series in South Africa, and everything pointed towards India winning this test match with the bowling lineup that they have, the runs that they had on the board, the pitch deteriorating. Did we blow it, or was it snatched from our hands by Dean Elgar?
Yeah, I don't think we blew it. I back our chances in Cape Town, right? Like there's one test to go, and I'm hoping this series ends 2-1, and it's going to be a fantastic finale. I think somebody also tweeted like we don't have test series where we don't lose at least one match. We always lose at least one. It's usually the first one, but we always lose at least one, and so it had to happen. But really quickly, full credit to Dean Elgar, right? Captain had a rough go. I think he made a first baller in the previous test, or got out for a first ball duck, and came out just for like captain's innings, guy led his team from the front, all the cliches, but unbelievable to make 96 in a fourth innings chase against a bowling lineup with the prowess of the Indian quicks. Just phenomenal. Like ably supported. Markram looked decent today. That day, Peterson, Van der Dus, and Bavuma all supported him, but you need an anchor, and India lacked that a little bit. Both innings, I would say. Rahul was the anchor the first time around, and that made the difference. This time for South Africa, Elgar was it. And let's give him credit too for, there's a lot of discussion on how he motivated Rabada to bring out Rabada's best. And we talked about the role Kohli plays there. So for Elgar to be captain and opening batsman and see his team to a victory from a position where India would have backed ourselves to win, full credit. Outstanding knock, and sets us up for a phenomenal third test.
It absolutely does. And I mean, there's an argument that conditions were a little bit better on day 4 with the rain that had come down. They needed 122 to score, but I think you just have to give credit to the bloody mindedness of Dean Elgar to drag that it was almost an Australian mindset, right? To drag that South African team across the line to level the series. Bavuma played a nice innings. I mean, Shardul dropped him, which was unfortunate. Maybe something could have still happened when there were 65 runs to go. But you have to give credit to that lineup. It showed tremendous grit. It showed the ability to guts out. And Van der Dusen batted well as well. Let's remember that. He gave good company to Dean Elgar. And full credit to the South Africans. They didn't take it lying down, and it was a fantastic performance for those guys to go 1 love ahead. And also we have to to tie the series at 1-1. But we also have to remember this is the second test match that Kohli didn't captain in the recent past, and we haven't won that. New Zealand, we fell short by 1 wicket. Here we fell short by 7 wickets. So let's look forward to this Cape Town test match. Ashwin, what are your changes for this test match? Assume Kohli is fit. Assume Siraj is unfit. Go.
I think Kohli comes back in for Rahane. Pujara at 3, Kohli 4. Vihari keeps his number 5 or stays at number 5. And Umesh. I'm prioritizing Umesh slightly over Ishant to fill in that 4th seamer spot with no other changes.
Varun, your changes for Cape Town. Are you sticking with the similar lineup?
No,
with the similar...
different.
Okay,
Very
nice.
different. I go with Kohli for Ashwin and Ishant in for Siraj.
I
So
think
4
I'm going
quicks
with...
and that's it. Interesting. Okay.
You have
No,
Vihari to bowl
no,
off
no,
spin.
I think
Why?
it's great. I think it's great. I'm supportive of that. I'm just not sure it'll happen, but I think it's a great idea. Yeah.
So I'm in. I think Varun, we discussed this on WhatsApp as well. I'm in with your lineup. It's either Umesh or Ishant, whoever's fitter, whoever's bowling better, and that gives you 6 batters, right? Rahane plays, Kohli plays, Vihari plays, Pujara plays. Pant bats at 7, right? Followed by the 4 bowlers. One of which is Shardul, who can bat as well. So I think it has to be Bumrah, Shami, Ishant/Umesh, Shardul, and Vihari bringing up the role of the holding spinner if required. As it is, I don't think India used their 5th bowler enough. I genuinely don't think that we utilize our 5th bowler enough. There's always somebody who does not bowl enough overs. But guys, we will find out. It's only 2 days for that Cape Town test match. It's a finale. It's the last test of a series yet again. It's all to play for, man. I'm excited. Okay. Varun, you predicted 2-0, 2-1. What did you predict? You sticking with that? You have to now.
2-1. I have
To
to.
India.
Yeah.
To India. To be
Yeah.
clear. Ash?
I think I also predicted 2-1, which I'm sticking to.
India. I'm going with 2-1 as well. We are all backing our boys, captained by the king, to breach the final frontier, to bring this South African test series to a magnificent conclusion. And with that, we conclude this week's episode of the Edges and Sledges Cricket Podcast. Thank you all for joining us. As always, you can write into us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram at OneTipOneHand, contact at OneTipOneHand.com if you want to get in touch, and please rate us, review us, and we will see you next week once the test match is over, and hopefully, fingers crossed, we will be celebrating a famous Indian win. Until then, guys, take care, stay safe, and we will see you next week.
IVM